What's going on, guys? Chandler here. So this is going to be my new segment on my YouTube channel called First Listen Review that is taken from my $5 tier full album reactions. So I react to the entire album, and then at the very end I give my overall thoughts and initial thoughts and a score on the album as a whole. So again, if you do like what you see and want to support the channel going forward, head over to patreon.com/ChandlerBurtonEntertainment. This is exclusive to the $5 tier. Again, you get a full album reaction, review, and a whole bunch of other perks as well if you guys are interested. And again, there's always a link down below in the description and in the pinned comment. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoy the review, and thank you all so much for watching. All right, my friends, again, Dayseeker, Dark Sun, again, so hyped for this album, dude. I'm just hoping for an emotional journey through and through, which I think we are going to be getting that here. Again, just one of my most anticipated albums, if not my most anticipated album of this year, besides Fit for a King, the hell we create here. So let's pop it off. Again, just feel like a kid on Christmas here. You guys ready? In 3, 2, and
let's go.
Yeah, dude, I had to listen to that again because I was like, my computer messed up. I apologize about that. But that song really hit me, dude, just because, like, my grandpa died back in 2015, and I was on my mission for my church. I just told the story recently. And, you know, my mom sent pictures of him, like, holding his hand in the hospital, and the pictures are still on Facebook, and sometimes that just really, you know, hits home, where it's kind of like, you know, death is just a part of life, and that was the closest person in my life that died, and you know, it's just the way they painted that song, you know, was just such a beautiful, it was just a beautiful dedication to his father, you know. Yeah, that really got me emotional, dude. I had to take a second there. But let's continue.
A few moments later.
We did it. Dayseeker, Dark Sun, an absolutely emotional roller coaster through and through, man. Those last two songs really got me, dude. I was like, man, this is like an emotional album that I think we all need. I mean, we always need something to kind of like, you know, grip onto when we need help, but dude, this album was phenomenal. I'm not going to be able to praise it enough. So I'm going to give my first listen review. I'm pretty sure we all know what the score is going to be just because I loved it, you know. But my first listen review is coming up next, so stick around for that. All right, my friends. So again, Dayseeker, Dark Sun, just got done jamming the entire thing. Absolutely just an emotional roller coaster through and through. I can definitely tell you this off the bat. I know some people are not going to like this album. I'm just going to say it because some people are going to be like, I wish Dayseeker would go back to, like, you know, their album Origins, for an example. Definitely more of a metalcore type record. People miss those types of things, but I really feel like with Sleep Talk, they found that perfect balance of like the heavy and the melodic and the pop elements here. And I think this album just elevates that sound of what they created on Sleep Talk. I gotta say, for pro number one is, of course, it's going to be Rory's voice. Now, again, I need to give a shout out to the rest of the band as well. Everyone on this album did a phenomenal job. I just don't play guitar or bass or drums. The only thing I know how to do are vocals, and I can't really sing that well, so I always gravitate more towards the vocalist when it comes to those types of things. And Rory is without question one of the best singers in the scene right now, maybe in any genre of music that I listen to. My favorite singers as of right now, and at least in this scene per se, is Rory Rodriguez, Noah Sebastian from Bad Omens, and Vessel from Sleep Token. I think all three of those guys are just phenomenal singers, and so Rory is able to like capture the element of emotion that you need within this type of music. Like there's the song Paper Heart, for example. There was no visualizer, no music video, but you can just imagine what he was going through, you know, what he was, you know, when his father passed away, going on those drives, sitting by the lake, and you can just see that in your head, and it's really hard, like, as a vocalist, to paint a picture like that, and he did such a good job bringing that to life, and it really hit me emotionally. Same with like Parallel and Afterglow and the rest of the songs of the album as well. Like, he really was able to capture that element of like the visual element with his voice, and I think he just did a phenomenal job. I mean, he always does good on all the albums that he's on, but I really want to give a shout out to him being able to bring that to the album. I thought it was fantastic. I also really love the lyrical content on this, man. There's something for everybody on here. This is a very sad, this is a very dark, Dark Sun, you know what I'm saying? It's a very dark record, it may sound poppy and uplifting in some songs like Homesick, but this album is really dark, and it's really sad. It's definitely about finding solace in the hard times, which that's why I put that picture in the beginning of him and his dad and his daughter, because this album is dedicated to his father. There's songs about, obviously a lot of it's about his dad who passed away. I think he had a really good relationship with his dad. There's obviously some relationship stuff on there, like Without Me and those types of things. And then about his daughter, that last song was just absolutely phenomenal. One of the standouts in my opinion. So there's going to be something that we can relate to on this album, whether you're going through someone who is going to pass away or has passed away, or a relationship, or in regards to your child. There's just so much on here that we can relate to, and they did a really good job of not just making it about one thing. There's a lot of different things on there that really make this album stand out. Again, I would also say the emotion on this album is on another level. As I said, there's only 2 songs with screaming on it. That's Dream State and Neon Grave. But I feel like with Rory singing and the instruments tying in together, and I really just feel like it just did such a good job of capturing the emotion. The instruments as well really captured the emotion. I really like Quicksand. I just thought that was really just a really cool like ballad on the album, where I actually like the instruments just as much as the vocals. Not saying one is better than the other, but everything just felt really balanced, and I thought the emotion everywhere on this album was absolutely phenomenal. And then I would say, for me personally, this could be a con for some people, but for me, I think this album is just as good as Sleep Talk. It's not necessarily a Sleep Talk 2.0, because this album actually is different sonically. I think it's more poppy than Sleep Talk. I think some people may not like that. I feel like some people think they found their perfect balance with Sleep Talk, but for me, it's about neck and neck as of right now. Obviously, I'm going to listen to this album a ton more, and then at the end of the year, I'll definitely be able to figure out like which one do I like better. But as of right now, the quality of this album is just as good as Sleep Talk, so there's no need to worry if you're like, oh man, Sleep Talk was their magnum opus. I mean, this album is up there for me with Sleep Talk. They did a really good job of just bringing that. I know it's hard to follow up a really good album, kind of like a good movie or a good video game or a good book. It's hard to follow up something really, really good, and I think they did it perfectly. Me personally, I do not have any cons with this album. Now, if I listen to it more and more, some stuff may pop up going like, that could have been a little bit better, or that could have been a little more different. But as of right now, just on the first initial listen, I think this album is a complete masterpiece. Like, I think everything about it is just wonderful. It still has those heavy elements that you enjoy. It's got those pop elements. It's also got the melodic elements on there. So there's so much for me to enjoy on this album, because I'm a fan of all types of music, and Dayseeker brings all those types of music that I love into one album. And so I thought they did a really good job of like pacing the album. It's heavy when it needs to be, again, melodic, poppy when it needs to be. So I thought they did a really good job on that album. I will say this is not a big con for me here, but I know there's going to be some people saying that this album needs more riffs, it needs to be heavier. I really don't think it needs to be. Again, I always say that heavier doesn't need to be better, and you do not need to reinvent the wheel for your music to be good. I mean, yeah, their music is nothing crazy, it's not changing the genre by any means, but they do it really, really well, and it just sticks with you. And so again, if you relate to it and you like it, you are absolutely allowed to think this is the greatest band of all time. But if you're looking for insane riffs, crazy screams, those types of things, you're not going to get that with this album. What this is it's a very story-driven album about him losing his father. And again, we should definitely be respectful about that, because again, Rory putting that out there for us here, it definitely is not an easy thing. But again, side note and kind of side tangent here, I don't have any cons with this album. My top 3 favorite songs from this album. Again, another hard album to pick a top 3 because I legitimately do love all these songs so much here. But I would say number 1 is Quicksand. I thought that song, again, just a really cool ballad. That feature on there, I do not know who that was, but it sounded pretty good on the second verse. So I really, really like that song. Super, super cool. I gotta say Parallel, man. That song made me cry. I seriously was so blown away of how well he painted the picture with the lyrics. I mean, that's so hard to do. I feel like when I write lyrics sometimes it always feels kind of samey, but he was able to open up, Rory was able to open up like an emotional Pandora box, and just all the emotion just kind of flooded out, and I thought it was just phenomenal. And then the last song, Afterglow, Hazel's song, I mean, that is just the sweetest thing ever, writing a song for his daughter, and that song absolutely was a standout for me here. I mean, it was so phenomenally sung. I mean, she is so lucky to have a dad like Rory. He just seems like the nicest guy. I'm so excited to sit down and talk with him here on my podcast because I just feel like he would just be a really cool dude to hang out with. I actually met him once on the Wage War Pressure Tour, but I just... again, I'm just going off a whole bunch of crap here. I'm sorry. But those are my top 3 songs that stuck out to me on Dark Sun. Whole album is phenomenal, though. This album is incredible. This album brings the sleep talk to a whole nother level, in my personal opinion. Both albums for me right now are tied. Again, I've been a Dayseeker fan since their first album, and I think these guys have finally found that sound that makes them happy. And I feel like Sleep Talk actually was more of like an experimental album, and I'll explain what I mean. I feel like they were definitely experimenting with like the more of the pop elements with their music, because there's more heavier songs on Sleep Talk than there is on this album here, so they kind of stuck with their metalcore roots a little bit more on Sleep Talk, and I felt like a lot of people gravitated more with the poppy stuff on Sleep Talk, and so they're like, we'll just take those elements that we loved and put it on Dark Sun. So I feel like Sleep Talk was the experimental record, but Dark Sun is like the album that they are the most confident in. I think it's the best lyrically Dayseeker written album they've ever done. I think it's the most emotional. I think it's the most clever. I think it's the coolest album that they've ever done. Every song on here is phenomenal. Again, if you are looking for super sick riffs like from their older stuff, you're not going to get that on this album. You may get a little bit on Dream State, you may get a little bit on Neon Grave, but those are the only 2 songs that really have like breakdowns or, you know, like screaming, those types of things. So if you're disappointed by that, I do apologize here, but again, if you're willing to give this a chance to just listen to the story that is being told, I really think this album is going to impact a lot of people because it's absolutely phenomenal. Years come, we're not going to remember the breakdowns or the cool guitar parts. We're going to remember the story that was brought with this album. What this is a very emotional roller coaster of losing somebody, relationships, having a kid. There's so many things on this album that we're going to remember. We're not going to remember the riffs or the breakdowns or anything like that. We're going to remember how the album made us feel. And for me, this album made me feel something just absolutely special. Dayseeker, Dark Sun is going to be an absolute 100%, without question, 10 out of 10. This is probably going to be my album of the year. I mean, again, I have a whole bunch of albums that I've been reacting to. There's a few more this month that I'm going to be jamming, but there's a very, very high chance that this may be my album of the year. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. And again, if you're new to Dayseeker, definitely give this album a chance, man. You're not going to be disappointed.